Chapter 12 describes what the day of the event entails. This overview includes a brief discussion on planning, anticipating, delegating, and communicating. In addition, it talks about tools to help accomplish tasks, details on how to manage staff, spectators, participants, and sponsors, along with problem solving. The event day has finally arrived. So there are a lot of things that need to be accomplished on that day. So a detailed plan of action should be in place on how to address things and how things will be accomplished throughout the day. Put substantial thought into what could happen during the course of the event. Maybe create a contingency plan in case something goes wrong. You've got a backup plan to figure out how to deal with it. Delegate tasks. There's a lot that's going to happen. One person can't do everything, so give people some responsibility. And then communicate with your staff, so coordinate with people to ensure everyone knows what's happening and when things need to happen. Here are 4 tools to help people get things done on event day. The first is obviously to create a schedule of the event itself and have sites if you have different areas of the facility in which you have things going on. The next is a checklist. So maybe a brief or longish list of things that go into putting that event on in that day. A contact list, so a list of people to call or get a hold of in case something goes awry or if you need something. And then an event rundown and script. So script is kind of important when you're introducing people. You need to actually mention sponsors so that they get their fair share of airtime and so on. On the day of, you want your staff to arrive a little bit earlier and check in so that you have time to brief them and let them know what they need to be doing throughout the day. Also, discuss the responsibilities of specific people. So again, your staff knows who to talk to if things occur, and not everything needs to necessarily go to the top manager. So delegate that information, give people responsibility and roles so that they feel invested in the event. For events that are all day and multi-day, it's really important, obviously, and required by law to have breaks and rotations. So communicate the break schedule so you make sure that you have the right people in the right spot, particularly if you're looking at this from the X Games standpoint. There's a number of different areas that people need to be. In terms of problem resolution, staff should be briefed on typical problems they may incur and how to deal with them. For positional assignments, ideally you put people in jobs that they want to do and that they're good at so that they excel in those positions. And then after the event's over, debrief with them and evaluate their roles and responsibilities and the overall success of the event. In terms of managing spectators, customer service is clearly a #1 priority, making sure customers feel heard, informed, and ideally it keeps them coming back to your event. Ticketing is interesting these days because we've moved from showing up with hard copies of tickets to having tickets on your phone and making sure those devices and that technology works. Sometimes there's snags, but again, coming back to customer service, if you have good people, you can deal with things. VIP needs, they may have higher expectations for their experience, so it's really important that your customer service is on point so you can meet those needs and make them feel like the VIP status that they paid for. And then signage and communication is important because it reduces backups at ticket lines, directs spectators to the correct entry points, and reduces spectator confusion. Informed spectators are more likely to enjoy their experiences and less likely to encounter frustration. These 5 points are pretty important in trying to resolve a problem. First, you want to listen to the person that has the issue, actively listen, ask them questions about it, make them feel like they're heard. Apologizing never hurts. Empathize, so think about the situation from their perspective and what they may have felt and how you may have felt if you were in that same situation. Perhaps you want to explain a little bit more about, from the management side, what may have happened, or maybe you don't, because that could also get them more fired up. And then finally, act, so figuring out a way in which you can help them resolve that problem. Maybe You give them free concessions, maybe they get a refund on something, free tickets for the next event. That's up to you and the policies that you have in place. The actual participants or athletes in your sporting event in particular are also really important. So making sure that when they arrive, you greet them, you have some sort of check-in set up if you need to have the logistics of the participant area set up and clearly marked. Maybe you have a map for them so it shows them where the showers are, where their events are going to take place, any press rooms that they need to go into after the event or before to have interviews with media. Communicate with them so that they know any schedule changes, any other logistics changes, and then participant liaisons are the people in between, so keeping them up to date and being able to answer their questions so that they can really relay that information back to the athlete themselves. Never forget about the officials, so they also need to be considered as part of the event, so the same things would apply to them, making sure that they know what's going on, communicating information where they need to be, where things are. In terms of locker facilities, typical changing rooms include lockers and showers, but sometimes people may need more or want more. After the event's over or after a participant leaves the venue, you need to have a plan for exit, transportation, safety, particularly if the athlete is high profile, so that they're not being mobbed at the entrance and exit, and then allow them to evaluate their participation in the event. So after the event's over, maybe you want to touch base. After the X Games were over in Minneapolis, maybe ESPN touched base and had athletes fill out a survey about what their perspective on how the event went, any things that could have been improved, and so on. The last part is managing sponsors. So this can come in the form of hospitality, from catering to facilities, making sure it exceeds expectations. This example on the right this picture on the right is a nice example of the signage at the X Games. So sponsors that pay a lot of money for things, they want to see their logo everywhere. So people will see this while they're in the facility, participants and spectators, and also while media is covering the games in the mega ramp, they'll see that as well. Public address announcements are a good way to thank sponsors out loud so that everyone can hear, so you get the verbal and the visual. And then finally, the timing and execution of promotions ensures that all activities would meet sponsor expectations. One person from the organization should be the sponsor liaison, who serves as the sponsor's primary contact. Events should develop a fulfillment plan for each sponsor that ensures the event is honoring each contractually obligated component of the contract, which means deliverables. And sponsors should be involved in the evaluation of the event, whether it be interviews or surveys, and also given a report after the event is over. In summary, there are several stakeholders groups like staff, participants, spectators, and sponsors who all come together on the day of the event. In order to have a successful event, it's important to have planned out a schedule, anticipated problems, delegated tasks, and communicated information to all involved.